I'm so mad. So I yell at you. I punch the wall. I storm off, slamming the chairs around. I run upstairs or stomp my feet and slam the door. I don't care that you don't like it. I don't care that you now feel bad. In fact, I'm going to wait in my room until you come and apologize to me. Now, who am I? Well, I'm either a 2-year-old toddler who's throwing a temper tantrum, or maybe I'm a teenager dealing with, hormones, social anxiety, and overwhelming schoolwork and the rules of a parent. Or I'm a full-grown, covert, narcissistic adult. So how is the situation handled? Well, for the 2-year-old, you parent them. You take away their favorite toy. You have them take a time out. You let them know that this behavior is not okay. And you talk with them. You talk with them about feelings and emotions. You help them to learn how to handle being angry. Maybe you give them some ideas on things to do when they're angry. And you tell them that you love them. You connect with them and you give them a chance to learn and to grow from this. Well, the teenager, you probably, you parent them too, but it's a little different. Maybe you ground them. You take away their phone, take away their car, you take away their access to their friends or any fun events that they have coming up. You encourage them to go make amends, to go, make things right with the people that they've just, hurt or upset. You talk with them about how their behaviors affect those that are around them, trying to help them to see, the effect of their behavior, trying to help them to see outside of themselves. And also, you try to connect with them. You tell them that you love them. You wrap your arms around them, and you try to use this as a time of learning and growth. Well, now we have the covert narcissistic adult. How does it get handled here? You tiptoe around them. You figure out what set them off, and you add that to your checklist of things to make sure you never do again, things you never say again, things that you make sure never happen again. And after countless attempts of trying to connect with them as adults and the resulting, circular conversations that go on for hours and hours and hours, instead, you just wait for this behavior to disappear. You shove it under the rug. You wait for things to kind of return to this, normal, that we talk about abuse amnesia, where there's just this weird state of normal. You wait for that to set in, and you both pretend like it just didn't happen. The problem is, this behavior is the same from a 2-year-old, a teenager, to a full-grown adult. It's understandable from a toddler. It's even expected from a teenager. Not okay, but expected. But it is shocking from an adult. I'm Renee Swanson, your host of the Covert Narcissism podcast. And today we are talking about emotional regulation and emotional dysregulation. It is different when you have these behaviors coming from a 2-year-old, a teenager, or a full-grown adult. And I often get asked, what is emotional regulation? And how do we teach it to our children? So let's start by identifying what it is not. Emotional regulation is not spilling your emotions all over the other people in your life. It is not, taking everything out on them, like kicking the dog when you're mad. It's, when someone who's experienced negative emotions feels like they have the right to treat you however they want. They treat you with sharpness and blame and rage and this entitled anger. I'm angry and therefore none of this matters. It's my get out of jail free card because I'm angry. I can do whatever I want. And it's really a problem with covert narcissists because they can get angry over anything. It takes a nothing for their anger to show up, and then they're entitled to it. They're yelling, slamming doors, breaking things, or sulking and pouting around the house. This is entitlement. while everyone does have a right to be angry, okay, you are entitled, I guess I hate to use that word, but you are allowed to be angry, okay? That's okay. But that does not give you the right to stomp all over everyone else's feelings. It doesn't give you the right to behave like a 2-year-old or like a hormonal teenager. Emotional regulation also is not this sulking mode. Being cold and distant, using the silent treatment and using it in a manipulative way. It's not even just, I need to take a time out and I need to go have some time in the other room. That would be okay. But this is, I'm going to purposefully be in your space and show you that I am ignoring you because I'm angry. Sulking around, disassociating, even turning to addictions, defensiveness, hypersensitivity, none of this is emotional regulation. This emotional dysregulation leads to people walking on eggshells around you. They're tiptoeing around you to keep you happy because your emotional dysregulation makes everybody around you uncomfortable. So they go out of their way to meet your needs and expectations just to avoid the painfulness of your cold or harsh attitude and reactions. So let's look at what healthy regulation does look like, and then how do we teach it to our children? Well, first you have to start by looking at it in you. You can't teach something to your children that you don't know how to do as well. You can't teach them, how to tie their shoe if you don't know how to tie your own shoe. Well, the same thing is true of emotional regulation. You have to start with yourself. Have you ever heard the saying, do as I say, not as I do? Well, that doesn't really work in parenting. If you tell your child, well, you got to spend less time on electronics, but yet you're spending hours and hours on electronics, that's not going to work. They're going to do as you do, not as you say. If you tell your child, well, you must drink more water, but water's not a priority to you, and you're drinking sodas all the time, that's what's going to happen with your child. You can tell them, you got to be nice to other people and treat them with respect, but if you're not doing it, they're not going to do it either. You can say whatever you want, but your words mean nothing if you aren't listening to them yourself. So don't try to teach emotional regulation to your kids while you are emotionally dysregulated. Start with you. So it starts with learning to identify your emotions, learning to see them and admit them to yourself without judgment. Okay, we find ourselves in a world where people judge emotions. Well, you shouldn't be angry or you shouldn't be sad or whatever. I'm done with all the judgment. Drop the judgment. Emotions are there for a reason. So start with just identifying them. I got a pillow off of, the internet that's called an emotions, An emotions wheel pillow. And that pillow has like all these different emotions on it, and even ones that I wouldn't even have thought of to call as an emotion. And inside the wheel on the inner part are the basic emotions, happy, sad, angry. Those are the main ones. And fearful, I think, is on there as well. And then it goes to the outer circle where you take happy and it breaks it down into more specific types of happiness, or the same thing with anger and the same thing with sadness and so on. And so it's got layers that let you really identify the emotion that you're feeling. Well, do that. Get that kind of emotions wheel. It's out there. You can get it on a keychain or a pillow or a t-shirt or whatever you want to do. How about journaling? You can get onto journaling. Silk and Sonder has a great journal, and I'll tell you that I do have an affiliate link for them. It's on my website. It'll be in the show notes. It's a great way to support what we're doing here, but also at the same time then, it's a journal that helps you to identify your emotions and to work through, their questions and their daily the daily exercises and activities that they have. It's a really, really good way for you to look inside yourself. So giving yourself space for your own emotions Say things like, I am overwhelmed today. Okay, how does that feel? Life feels heavy or scary or uncertain. This feels horrible to me, and I just want to take a break from the weight of it. This is you being honest about your emotions. Maybe you're saying, I feel really optimistic today. I'm hopeful for what's coming and I'm motivated to move forward. This feels really good to me. Again, this is identifying your emotions. Learn to do that. Every day or most days, write down how you are feeling in 2 or 3 sentences. Get used to this. Start verbalizing it, and maybe even tell your feelings to a few trusted friends or family members. Now, as you start to do this and to get more comfortable with this, teach your kids to do it too. Again, you have to do it first, and now you can teach them. Help them with the same things. Help them to find the words to express their feelings and express their emotions. Give them the safety to do this. Encourage them to write it down in a couple sentences of their own. Maybe get them this emotions pillow, or they have these reversible plushies where you can, on a happy day, you get the happy face and then you turn it inside out on the angry day and you put it on the angry side. Use that and help them to explain what that happy side feels like or what that angry side feels like. There is no really right or wrong way to do this. Get creative with your child. Now, identifying the emotions and learning to describe them is a starting point. But now, what do we do with them? Where do we go from there? Learning, to express your emotions in a healthy way is extremely important, both for you and for those around you. A lot of you may not have grown up with, good models for this, with people, adults in your life who were emotionally regulated. Well, that makes it hard then. It's one thing to identify the emotions, but now what do I do with them? Not expressing your emotions is not regulation. There's a misconception here, and I want to address this. Self-regulation and emotional regulation is not shutting them up or stuffing them inside and being stoic and never having emotions. That's not emotional regulation. In fact, I would put that in the category of emotional dysregulation. Self-control doesn't mean don't ever be silly. It means learn when it's okay to be silly and when it's okay not to, and learn that difference and have the self-control to do it. Well, the same thing is true of emotional regulation. Emotional regulation doesn't mean don't ever be emotional. It just means learn when it's okay and safe to be emotional and when it's not, and give yourself that space. We seem to put this expectation on ourselves and we over-regulate, putting a huge cap on our own emotions and shoving them inside, bottling them up. In fact, we often praise people for being able to stay silent and controlled, swallowing their feelings and remaining stoic. They're so mature and they've got such a good grip on life. No, they're not. On the inside, they're like a grenade waiting to go off, like a volcano waiting to explode. This is not healthy, and it isn't sustainable. Many victims of covert narcissistic abuse think that they are managing the situation really well by keeping their thoughts and feelings to themselves, swallowing their own feelings, and they just stay silent. Anything else is just too risky, so I understand it's a survival mechanism, but it's a time bomb waiting to go off, and it does not do your kids any favors. So how do we express our emotions in healthy ways? I want you to take those core emotions. Let's start with the simple ones: happy, sad, angry, fearful. Write down each of these main emotions, and under each one, write a few ways to express that emotion. Write a few ways that register with you. I'll give you some examples, but you got to find what's right for you. So under happy, I would put to sing and dance. That's a way to express my happiness. To go for a walk and enjoy nature. to call a friend, to just visit and chit-chat. These are ways that I express happiness. What about sadness? Curl up in bed with a stuffed animal. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a way to express sadness. How about to hold your dog or your cat, or even just to sit down and have a good cry? There's nothing wrong with that. Tears are very healing. Express your sadness. What about anger? When you're angry, how do you express your anger? Go outside and let out a scream. Okay, people might look at you and think you're crazy, but I don't care what they think. You are expressing your emotions. Hit your pillow or a workout bag. Go for a run. Make it a sprint if you need to. Pump some weights or do some jumping jacks or scrub a toilet or a bathtub out of anger. Use these as ways to express your anger. Who are you expressing it to? You're expressing it to yourself. This is not spilling your emotions all over someone else. This is doing it safely and openly and honestly with yourself. How about even spending time alone? It's okay to go take a time out for yourself because you're angry. This is not storming upstairs and slamming my door. This is even telling somebody, hey, I'm angry right now and I need to go take some time for me. That is a healthy way of handling the emotion of anger. How about fear? Being fearful, maybe fearful about your relationship, fearful about what your kids are going through, fearful about your financial situation. How do you express that fear? Maybe you call a friend and you tell them about your fear. Make sure it's a friend that you're safe to talk to. Maybe listening to some comforting music or praying and meditating. Take these emotions and make a little list, just 2 or 3 things, of ways you can express those emotions in a healthy way. As you get better at this, you can start including the more refined emotions, such as anxiety, busyness, vulnerability, or distance. Do this same activity now with your child. Do it for you first, then help your child. Help them to make their own list. It's going to look different, and that's okay. It can and it should. These are kids. They're going to do kid things. There's no right or wrong answers here. Learning to express your own emotions is a very individual journey, even for our young ones. Encourage them to be creative. Maybe they want to do a puzzle. Maybe they want to color in a coloring book. Maybe they want to go outside and throw a football. What are their ways of expressing their different emotions? I'm going to give you an example of how some of this very specifically plays out. If I have a strong emotional reaction to my child, maybe not ready to walk out the door when I'm ready to leave, and I'm trying to be on time, and so now I'm frustrated and upset with this child. Emotional dysregulation would be me spilling those emotions now all over this child, out of proportion with the crime at hand. It's okay to say to my child, hey, this is not okay. You need to be ready to go, and maybe even put punishments in place. And that's fine. You don't have to be angry in order to punish or guide or correct your child. But an emotional dysregulation would be me, yelling at them, slamming things around the house, stomping or punching the walls, any of that scares and intimidates my child. So instead, I can let them know, hey, this is really making me angry, that you're not ready to go. I'm really disappointed in you, and we're going to have to correct this and find ways to fix this. And then you go outside before them. Maybe you go sit in your car and you let out that frustrated scream all by yourself. Well, that's okay. This is a healthy expression of the anger you are feeling that doesn't stomp all over the feelings of your child. This is a form of emotional regulation. You're not losing your mind. You're not going crazy. It's okay for you to have the emotional response to the situation. You don't have to be stoic and unreactive and showing extreme patience and chasing away your own feelings. Instead, acknowledge it, acknowledge how you feel, name it, express it, feel it, and then process it. There is nothing easy about this walk, especially when you are in a narcissistic relationship. But you can do this. It does get easier the more you do it, especially when you begin to see and feel the benefits. reconnecting your head and your heart back together is a significant part of the recovery from cognitive dissonance. Your heart already has these feelings. Help your mind to get on board with it. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing.